In the beginning, God created a place of unmatched beauty and wonder, the Garden of Eden. This garden was a paradise, filled with lush greenery, vibrant flowers, and trees that bore every kind of delicious fruit. Rivers flowed gently through the land, feeding the plants and creating pools of sparkling water. Animals of every kind lived in harmony, and the garden was alive. In the midst of this perfect world, God created two special people, Adam and Eve. Together, they were given the responsibility to care for the garden and enjoy all the blessings it had to offer. The Garden of Eden was a beautiful place where Adam and Eve had everything they needed. God just gave them one important rule. They could eat from any tree in the garden, except for the tree of knowledge. God said, "If you eat from this tree, you will surely die." One day, a clever serpent came to Eve and asked slyly, "Did God really say you can't eat from any tree in the garden?" Eve replied, "We can eat from any tree, except the one in the middle of the garden. God said we must not eat or touch it, or we'll die." The serpent replied after a long pause, "You won't die. God knows that if you eat from it, you'll become like him, knowing good and evil." Eve looked at the fruit. It seemed so good and tempting, and the temptation grew stronger and stronger and stronger, and Eve couldn't help it and took a bite from the forbidden fruit and gave some to Adam, and he ate it too. At that moment, their eyes were opened, and they realized they were naked. Feeling ashamed, they used fig leaves to cover themselves. Later, as the evening breeze came, Adam and Eve heard God walking in the garden. They were afraid and hid among the trees. God called out, "Adam, where are you?" Adam said, "I heard you and was afraid, because I'm naked, so I hid." God asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Did you eat from the tree I told you not to eat from?" Adam said, "It was the woman you gave me. She gave me the fruit and I ate it." Then God asked Eve, "What have you done?" Eve said, "The serpent tricked me, so I ate." God was not pleased. God told the serpent, "Because you did this, you will crawl on your belly, and there will always be trouble between you and people." To Eve, he said, "Life will be harder now, and things won't always be easy." To Adam, he said, "Because you disobeyed, the ground is cursed. You'll have to work hard to grow food." Even though Adam and Eve had disobeyed, God still cared for them. He made clothes for them to wear so they wouldn't feel ashamed. But God knew they couldn't stay in the Garden of Eden anymore. Their sin, it had changed everything. So he sent them out of the garden and placed angels to guard the way back. Though life outside the garden was harder, God never stopped loving Adam and Eve, and he had a plan to make things right again one day. In the early days, after Adam and Eve had departed from the Garden of Eden, they found themselves in a wide, quiet desert. The fruit trees and easy comforts of Eden were behind them. Now they looked around at sandy hills and prickly shrubs, not knowing where they would rest. Still, they trusted that if they kept walking, helping each other, and trusting their Maker's care, they would one day find a place to call home. No longer did fruit simply fall into their hands. Instead, they planted seeds, watered small shoots, and waited as tiny plants reached toward the sun, and learned what wheat and berries could be eaten. They shaped shelter from branches and leaves, and worked side by side as the seasons turned. Their children, who never knew Eden's easy abundance, listened as their parents described the garden's gentle peace. Outside Eden, there were aches and blisters, but there were also simple joys, the comfort of huddling together by a warm fire, and the quiet pride that came from honest effort. They could not return to Eden, but the memory of its harmony remained. Guided by that memory, they learned to care for each other, share their harvests, and find goodness in the world they now called home. And so, from the dust of the earth and the labor of their hands, Adam and Eve's children began to spread across the world. They carried with them the stories of the garden and the lessons of toil, how to till the soil, care for animals, and shape the land. From their simple beginnings, families grew into clans, and clans grew into communities. With time, families joined together and began to build more than homes. They built bonds. They built villages where laughter, learning, and life could thrive. And though the world was harsh, and Eden a distant memory, the spark of creation still burned bright within them. The first towns were born, where hands worked not just for survival, but for each other. And as villages turned into towns, and towns grew into cities, so too did their dreams and their struggles. The world was no longer small nor simple. Humanity reached out to the horizon, building monuments to their strength and ingenuity. But even as they grew, they carried with them the questions of purpose, of meaning, and of their Creator. For though the garden was lost, memory of it lived on, whisper in their hearts, calling them back to something greater. And so began the story of humanity. Not one family, but many. Not one home, but a world. This was the beginning of something greater.